Hey everybody, my name is Axel Villamil. We're back on 24 Shades of Blue with the amazing Ken Taylor, Inspector of the Fugitive Squad. Ken, how you doing?
Not bad. Thank you very much for the intro. You're stretching it a little bit, by the way.
Not a problem. I'm very excited to talk to you. For everybody that doesn't know him, Ken with the Fugitive Squad. But apart from that, everybody internally telling me he's the guy to talk to because he sounds like he's just a fun time to talk to on a podcast like this. So I'm excited to have this conversation and, just getting to know you. The first question, Ken, that I kind of wanted to touch upon was, how would you describe the fugitive unit? I feel like that's such a broad term, and I'm not sure if everybody, especially the public, will kind of understand that.
Well, let me start off with how many people we have working there. It's, first of all, I'm in charge of the Fugitive Squad. The bail and parole unit is also attached to that, and also the provincial rope squad, which is repeat offender parole enforcement. And that's 13 different police services throughout Southern Ontario. And we basically do the same thing as the Fugitive Squad. But the Fugitive Squad is made up of one detective sergeant, one detective, 6 detective constables, and one clerk. And just basically life in the Fugitive Squad is like many other places that police officers work, both in uniform and in plain clothes, is your hours you book on Monday to Friday, whatever hours you work. But those hours extend because criminals don't take time off. They don't have hours that they commit their crimes or try and evade police. And it's a group of people that are very close-knit. First of all, you have to have quite a bit of experience even to come into the Fugitive Squad. We like to see candidates that have either surveillance experience, some detective experience, like maybe guns and gangs, drug squad, and that they can fold well into a team. Because as you can understand, it's this close-knit group of people. They start in the morning where there's very, very little stress, and the stress can be elevated very quickly, and then it comes down again. And is the person there? No, he's not. Is he there? No, he's not. So you've got to have a certain type of personality to work here.
Oh, I bet. I feel like there's a lot of, not just the personality, because those long working hours or non-regulated working hours, just the intuition you'll need too. It sounds like there's that little extra you need to work with the Fugitive Squad. Is that right?
That is. And you've got to have, first of all, you got to have common sense. And a lot of police work just comes right down to common sense. Police work is not rocket science. And as long as you give the effort, there's so many resources available. So for example, if we are hunting, one of our mandates is to assist agencies throughout the world to apprehend criminals that have left their jurisdiction and they believe that they are in Canada, and even closer in the GTA. So if we get some information and a request from an outside agency, another country, well, first of all, we have two people that work at CBSA, customs officers that work with us with the Fugitive Squad. I forgot to mention, we have 2 of those officers that work hand in hand with the Fugitive Squad. So we have so many resources that the officers have so many resources, so many computer checks, information, and Google, Facebook. They'll gather all the information that they can possibly gather, driver's licenses, photo recognition, everything at their disposal, and then they'll start an investigation. So each investigation that comes in will be assigned, an officer will be assigned to that investigation. So when it comes time to look at that particular investigation, the team gets together, the officer who's in charge of it presents their case to the other members of the team, and amongst themselves, they decide the next course of action. Is it surveillance? Is it controlled delivery? It depends on what the circumstances are. But one of the things that we try and do, and this goes for any fugitive anywhere in the world, any fugitive squad, try and make the fugitive feel as uncomfortable as possible. So, for example, we have a fugitive from the United States, and I'm going to give you three examples, which might be kind of interesting. All of them were pretty exciting cases. But one of the things that we try and do is they want to make it very uncomfortable for somebody to go shopping to pick up groceries. They want to make it very uncomfortable for somebody to go to a corner store to pick up cigarettes, go to a restaurant, go to a bar, because they'll plaster the area with wanted posters. This person is wanted he's a fugitive from the United States, and he's wanted. We believe he's living in this area. This after quite a bit of investigation goes on first, but then it gets to this point where we flood the area with the fugitive's picture. So we don't want him. He can't even go out of his house, or if he does, we'll get a call and say, I just saw this person, and I'm going to give you an example of that in a few minutes about how that in fact happened. And we use there's external partners where they can assist. They're just not all police agencies. There's external partners that have dedicated their time to assist the police in getting these serious criminals off the street and making the streets wherever these people are a lot safer.
Are those external partners not just within Canada? Is it
the ones that we deal with are in Canada, but we have a close relationship with the U.S. Marshal Service. As a matter of fact, we speak to a U.S. Marshal Service person somewhere in the United States every day. We have a close relationship with Interpol because a lot of the warrants that come from outside of Canada, from around the world, go through Interpol. So we have a direct connection to Interpol. We also have a connection with the Nordic fugitive, the Nordic fugitive search teams, and that's in all the Nordic countries. We have another connection with NFAST, which is the European fugitive search teams. And how we get these connections is before COVID, the Fugitive Squad would host a fugitive conference every other year. And this was in conjunction with the U.S. Marshal Service. We attract people, fugitive investigators from across the world. And our last one, which was unfortunately 3 years ago because of COVID, attracted fugitive investigators from 21 countries. So, this is a big thing to take on because we need interpreters. A lot of the people that come here don't speak English, but the camaraderie and the interpersonal relationships. And in fact, the last conference, there was 3 people arrested just because of conversations between investigators from across Canada and around the world. 3 fugitives were arrested just from talking to each other.
Wow, I think that really shows the community right there and how important it is for all of you to be working together with at the end of the day, it's the sharing of information. So I feel like, a lot of the public doesn't really know this about Toronto Police Services having this type of unit doing their thing. It sounds like, if you look at it from a Hollywood perspective, you're on the go. You're on the hunt, ready to go catching fugitives. And I feel like, is there any misconceptions in what you see in Hollywood that you'd like to talk about, or kind of a myth bust here?
One of the things is that it doesn't happen in an hour show. So some of these, I'm going to talk about a fugitive who was on the run for over 20 years and was just captured a couple of weeks ago. But these things take a lot of time, and as I said earlier, as soon as a fugitive investigation comes in, there's a lot of paperwork to do. So there could be days of paperwork. One thing leads to another, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, phone number. There's all kinds of investigative techniques that we use before we even go out and try and find this person. And we also work with the community. There are people either most of the time our people are covert, so the public will never know that we are out there. But there are other times when we do ask for assistance from the public, and in a lot of those cases, you can imagine it's a lot better to have a whole community, because I've been on the police force for a long, long time, and I live in the city. I love Toronto, and I know that the people of Toronto really want to keep this. They want to keep Toronto safe, and if all we have to do is get out there and ask them. And in my experience in homicide, I had nothing but a great experience with the public trying to help, because you live in a community where you're trying to raise your kids, you're trying to you're out all the time working, and these people still want to help. And then they might see somebody, if we show them a picture, yeah, I know that person. I've seen them hanging around the schoolyard, or I've seen them hanging around here. So that cuts off a lot of surveillance time, people sitting in cars, when you just go out and ask. So, but not every case allows for that. But when it does, our people will go out with the local uniformed people and hand out pamphlets, ask questions, and the community is normally aggressive and they want to keep their community safe for themselves and their kids.
I think that's the beauty of Toronto. It's as much as there's this misconception of, you know, especially in the past couple of years with police and community, I feel like after speaking to so many people, such as like yourself, people from Crime Stoppers, etc., it's just the community really, really does care. So I'm glad to hear that even on your side, that if there's something there or somebody that's threatening the community safety, that everybody does care, and is going to work no matter what the case is. So I'm excited to hear that. I kind of want to go back to your three wonderful examples there, and I also want to talk about, maybe out of those three, what is the most memorable experience too, out of your time at the Fugitive Squad? That could be with a case that was just bugging you, or it's something that just really made you feel good about what you do.
Let me start off with one that happened. It was a homicide case back in 2007. It wasn't my case. It was a Detective Sergeant Wayne Banks. It was a murder that happened on the Danforth, and this is a good example of how the community gets involved, and how ultimately it is the community that solves the case. But the person is killed on the Danforth. The investigation goes on. They get information, and it takes a little bit of time, but they end up with a suspect. So the suspect flees to the United States, but shortly after the murder, and flees to join an Albanian gang in the New York City. But the police up here don't know that yet. But they hand out pamphlets along the Danforth, and I indicated this earlier on, community involvement. So nothing comes of it. About 6 months go by, and they get a call. The New York City police get a call saying from a female who used to live in Toronto and was at a dance club in New York City, and the suspect from the murder 6 months ago came up to her and asked her to dance, and gave the same nickname. I think the nickname was, I can't remember what the nickname was, but gave the same nickname as the suspect had up here in Toronto. So immediately after that, the homicide squad contacted the fugitive squad, and they started an investigation with the New York City police, with the U.S. Marshal Service. And within 8 hours of that investigation, the accused was brought into custody. So this is just a lady that used to live in Toronto, was down maybe visiting in a dance club in New York City. This guy asked her to dance, and she recognizes it from a pamphlet she saw 6 months ago. And we get a serious, violent gang member off the streets. Like at some point, he's going to end up coming back to Toronto. And New York, we work. That's the kind of cooperation that we have with the New York police and all police services across the world, and specifically the U.S. Marshal Service. There's a lot of friendships. As a matter of fact, I'm quite close friends with a former director of the U.S. Marshals, and we just have a tremendous relationship with them. And so that's one where Toronto, we're looking for a fugitive, and the U.S. Marshals and the New York City Police find him. He waives his extradition. He comes back to Toronto, faces a second-degree murder trial. Trial lasts 4 weeks, and he's convicted of second-degree murder.
And just to quickly comment on that is, especially with a lot of the U.S. Organizations and relationships that the Fugitive Squad in Toronto has, is it because of just, obviously it's the nature of law enforcement to communicate, but is it also because there's a lot of, back and forth between fugitives in the U.S. and Canada? I mean, we're right next to each other. Is that a possible reason too?
You're absolutely right. There is a lot of fugitives from the United States come across Canada. I'm going to give you an example of one of those, which in a minute. But there's probably more fugitives come into Canada from the United States than from Canada to try and evade prosecution that go from Canada into the United States. But the rapport we have with the U.S. Marshal Service, the information that we can get in seconds because of our relationships with these services, and the professionalism long before the officers who are working presently in the Fugitive Squad. Fugitive Squad started off 20 years ago with 21 constables, 2 detectives, and 1 detective sergeant. So we've had to dwindle that down. But from the start, the reputation and the hard work and the reputation that the Fugitive Squad has throughout the world, because a lot of times we will get requests from countries around the world for somebody wanted in Calgary or somebody wanted in BC. And because the people know, maybe from conferences that they met, or just they know that when they call the Fugitive Squad, they're going to be able to help them. If they can't do the investigation for them, they're going to put them in touch with people who can in a very short order. So, and a lot of these investigations are time stamped. We want to get them as soon as we can. We're not talking about somebody that stole a steak from a grocery store. In most cases, these are very violent people, and in a lot of cases, sexual predators that try and evade prosecution, say in the United States, or vice versa, from Canada to the United States, or from Europe, and they come here. But because of the rapport, because of the technology that we have now, that it really, really helps. And I'll give you the example of one from in the United States that he came across to Canada, and then he was arrested here. And it's kind of interesting. This person lives in South Carolina with his wife, has a domestic. He shoots her and kills her. He gets in his truck, drives north, and crosses at the Rainbow Bridge. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of somebody that, when you pull up to these wickets and you go up and you're scared talking to the guy when you cross the border. The picture that they have, incredible. Like you could tell if they've got a pimple on their face. I couldn't believe it when I looked at this picture. So this guy comes up. He just killed his wife like maybe 8 hours before. Drives up in his pickup 150. Comes up to the border. Yeah, and he's got actually 2 guns in his car too when he does this. And he talks to the guy. Well, what are you doing? What are you coming across for? I'm just visiting. Oh yeah, no problem. Do you have anything to declare? No. Okay. How long are you going to be here? The same questions we get asked, right? He comes in. He stays the first night somewhere around in a hotel near Niagara Falls. Then he travels to Toronto, and now the homicide squad from South Carolina now have identified that they found his wife murdered. They start an investigation. They start their checks, and then they find out that he crossed the border. So we get contacted. The Fugitive Squad starts conducting an investigation, starting right with the picture I just talked to you about when he crossed the border. And they got information through the United States and South Carolina that he might be trying to catch a plane in Toronto to leave the country. So he may be staying at a hotel. Now, I don't know if you've I don't know if you live in Toronto, but there's a lot of hotels near the airport, and it's time stamped. So like we got to rush. So we've frantically, everybody's in their car, they're rushing up to, and this is how it happens. It's not like, we all get together and we, stand at attention and somebody comes in and check. These people are flying in their cars up to the airport, including the CBSA people. We find this car parked, or we find one of the hotels saying, yes, this guy just checked out like 2 hours ago, and he said he's going to the airport. So sure enough, they check his name. He's on a manifest to an aircraft that's going to London, England, and it leaves in like minutes. So there's two CBS. We have credentials that we can get through the airport in a hurry. We can basically run through. So you can picture that there's two CBSA officers and two fugitive squad plainclothes officers running frantically through the airport. They catch him. He's number 3 in line to pass his passport and his airline ticket off to the lady before he boards the aircraft. So he's arrested, and so that was an exciting time, and it just shows they pick up a phone, and this is how we react. We react that quickly. Sometimes we're lucky, sometimes we're not, and this time we were lucky. So that was kind of one of the we go.
That just sounded like the biggest Hail Mary I've ever heard. And I think that's the beauty of what you do. You just go, and I travel a lot for work. Whether it's more in LA or Vancouver, and that area amount of hotels is just, it's a crazy radius of hotels that are there. So the amount of people power that was on that probably was nuts, and rushing through the airport. And I know there's times where I do notice officers, but I'm sure at some point you have to be discreet, or else that person's going to react. And it sounds like a lot of skill and just pure instinct needed to happen at that moment.
Like they knew where he was, they knew what gate he was at, and off they went. But again, it's the painstaking. You can imagine if you just put yourself in the car, like, hi, you walk up to the front desk. Yeah, did you see this guy? No. Okay, thank you. Next one. Did you see this guy? No. So it's probably a little more professional than that, but you know what? You get the point. And I'm just so proud of these people, the way they do that, and the dedication that they show. And I'm just not talking about the fugitive squad, all like the rope squad, bail and parole, the guns and gangs guys here in the OPP throughout the province. The people that I deal with these people are really hardworking. They really are, and they're dedicated individuals. And I'll give you an example. We have a female in the fugitive squad. She has 3 kids. So she's trying to cook supper one night on a Saturday, and her phone's going off, and she's got like 3 kids screaming. Some guy's calling her from Calgary, saying, "Hey, like, you know about this? We got this fugitive guy, and he's on the run. Okay, in a second, let me just turn down the oven and let me take this stuff off." That's real life. That's what happens. But they love what they do. You have to be dedicated, as you do for anything, and in your business too. Like, you got to be dedicated. You got to travel all over the place. Like, oh, I don't want to leave my house. Like, COVID's on, yet you travel all over the place. So you're dedicated to what you do. It's just different. You're dedicated there. Police are dedicated here.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a different type of dedication, especially, shout out to her on the fugitive squad, that woman with her kids, because I mean, not only being a mom is hard, is she's also on the fugitive squad. So that's very impressive. Yeah, I mean, I feel like from a mental health standpoint, is that tough, when you're at home, especially you're leading it. I'm not sure if you're on the ground as much, but in terms of like everybody else who is really there in the thick of it, including yourself, like, how was that with being at home? Was it tricky to just like drop everything and go? Did you figure out the balance?
For me now, like, my job is pretty easy. Like, I just basically go around and I collect all the accolades for the people that work hard. So my job's easy. But when I was in homicide, it's different, and that's how these people are. That's how they are in guns and gangs. That's how. And I know you spoke to the hold up squad, homicide squad guys. And this is throughout the province. It's just not Toronto. It's like at the end of the day, if you put your hand up to be in the fugitive squad, that's what your hours say. You work Monday to Friday, but most of the time day shift. But It's really 24/7 because you're tied to your phone. And I'm sure your phone is going off all the time, so you know exactly what it's like. It's really no different in business. Same thing, the phone's going off. You can't just shut the phone off in this type of work.
Absolutely. I mean, and especially in what you do and the rest of the team down at TPS, it's life or death. It's safety for the community. So I think that's where it's not just impressive from, I guess, our standpoint looking outside in. It's also just, I have a much higher respect as I've spoken to everybody, in each department. So, Ken, just want to thank you what you do. Thank you what the Fugitive Squad does. Is there any final thoughts about the Fugitive Squad you want to share with our listeners?
I just want to thank you, first of all, for allowing me to speak on behalf of the hardworking people of the Fugitive Squad, and not only just the Fugitive Squad, but I know we're keying in on the Fugitive Squad now, but all the hardworking people. It's nice that you recognize that, and that somebody as professional as you and as professionally as the rest of the people that are on this call and work around you. I just appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, and I want to give a positive response to how we work with the public and how we work and how, the hard work that goes into it in order to get somebody like this fugitive off the street. Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, Ken, thank you so much. I think we can all agree that at the end of the day, as long as the community is safe, that's what we all agree upon. So, Ken Taylor, everybody, 24 Shades of Blue, and we're out.